Amy stood by the barn in silence. The sky behind her was calm, but her hands trembled. In one hand, she held a letter sealed with an international crest. In the other, a photo of Ty and Lindy smiling on the ranch years ago. Her eyes were full of pain. No one at Heartland knew what she was about to decide. But deep down, Amy knew whatever she chose, it would change everything. It had started like any normal day. The horses were restless, the morning fog hadn't fully lifted, and the ranch buzzed with quiet chores. Amy brushed her favorite horse, Spartan, as Lindy played nearby in the dirt with a wooden stick pretending it was a sword. Then Lou's voice broke through the quiet. "Amy, you've got mail from Switzerland." Amy didn't think much of it at first, but when she opened the envelope and began reading, her face changed. Her breath caught. It was a personal offer from a world-class therapy center for abused horses asking her to come and lead a 6-month project in Europe. The job was a dream come true. It would mean finally stepping out from behind Ty's shadow and building something of her own. But it would also mean leaving Heartland and Lindy for months. The timing couldn't be worse. Her daughter was just settling into her own sense of peace. The ranch was recovering, and Amy herself had only just begun to feel grounded again after all the pain. Jack noticed right away. That afternoon, while fixing a fence post together, he said softly, "You've got something on your mind, kiddo." Amy tried to brush it off, saying it was just a silly opportunity she wasn't serious about. But Jack knew better. "Sometimes the right thing feels like the hardest thing," he added. Amy didn't reply. She just kept hammering nails into wood, her heart racing. As evening approached, she sat alone by Ty's old chair with Lindy asleep beside her. Her eyes stared at the letter again. It was a rare chance, but what if she left and everything fell apart again? Nathan arrived without warning. A worn-down truck pulled into Heartland's long drive just before sundown. Dust swirled behind him as he stepped out, tall, rough-looking, with sun-scorched skin and a limp that said more than words ever could. Amy was in the yard, feeding the horses, when she saw him. For a moment, she didn't recognize him. Then he said one name, Ty. Her heart froze. Nathan hadn't been seen in years. He and Ty had worked together on a remote rescue mission before Ty's death. They'd helped injured horses in dangerous zones where nobody else would go. But after Ty passed, Nathan vanished from everyone's radar. Now here he was, standing at Amy's door, eyes heavy with sorrow and something else, guilt. Inside the house, Jack looked at him cautiously, but Amy let him stay. Over supper, Nathan spoke in fragments. "It's not just memories bringing me here," he muttered. "Someone's cleaning up loose ends." He told Amy that 2 men they had once worked with overseas had died in what looked like accidents. But he didn't believe they were accidents. "They're going after people who knew too much," he said. "And Ty, even in death, was one of them." Amy listened in disbelief. All these years, she thought Ty's past was just about healing animals. But Nathan hinted there was more, something darker. Lou advised calling the police, but Nathan refused. "They won't believe me. And if they do, they'll start watching you too." Amy was torn again. Her focus had always been on Lindy, the ranch, the horses. But now, an old friend of Ty's was asking for help, and he looked like a man running from a storm. That night, she couldn't sleep. Ty's memory wasn't just coming back, it was bringing danger with it. The next morning, Amy sat in the loft above the barn, staring at the open letter once again. The job offer lay beside a photo of her and Ty taken just a year before he died. She remembered how proud he had been of her gift with horses, how he used to tell her she could help animals anywhere in the world. And now, the world was finally calling, but it felt more like a test than a gift. Downstairs, the ranch was alive with normal activity. Lou handling phone calls, Jack unloading supplies, Katie brushing one of the ponies. But Amy felt disconnected from it all, like her heart was caught in 2 timelines. One moving forward, the other still grieving. She had told no one yet that the job started in just 3 weeks. Not even Lindy. Later that day, she took Lindy on a trail ride through the quiet pastures. The wind was soft, the grass tall, and the horses calm. As they rode, Lindy suddenly asked, "Mommy, are we gonna live somewhere else soon?" Amy's hands tightened on the reins. "Why would you ask that?" she replied, trying to sound light. "I had a dream." You were saying goodbye, but you didn't look happy. Lindy's words cut deeper than Amy expected. That night, Amy finally opened up to Lou. I don't want to leave Lindy, she said, her voice shaking. But I also feel like if I don't go, I'll always wonder what could have been. Maybe this is what I'm meant to do now. Lou didn't try to convince her either way. Instead, she simply said, whatever choice you make, it has to be for you, not just for Ty, not for the ranch, not even for us. At dinner, Jack noticed Amy's quiet mood. He asked if she was okay, and she nodded, but he knew better. When I was your age, he said slowly, I gave up a lot for the ranch. Some of it I regret. Some of it made me who I am. But I never made a choice out of fear. Don't do that either, Amy. As if things weren't complicated enough, Nathan had taken to staying in the guest cabin, recovering from an old leg injury that had flared up again. He spent his days helping Tim with fencing or sitting by Ty's grave. One evening, Amy found him kneeling there, silent. When he noticed her, he stood and said, he wouldn't want you stuck here, Amy, but he'd also want you safe. Amy was trapped between two roads, both filled with pain and meaning. She knew whatever path she chose, she'd lose something. Either the comfort of Heartland or the dream that had waited so long to be claimed. And Nathan's presence only added more weight. He was part of Ty's unfinished story, and possibly the key to a danger no one saw coming. The ranch had started to feel uneasy. It wasn't just Amy's silence anymore, it was Nathan's behavior. He barely slept. He paced at night. He checked the doors twice, then 3 times before locking them. Something was haunting him. Amy saw it in his eyes every time he looked over his shoulder or flinched at sudden sounds. One afternoon, while fixing the corral gate, Nathan suddenly dropped the hammer and whispered, Did you hear that? Amy paused, but there was nothing. You need rest, she said gently, but Nathan shook his head. They're here. I know it. That evening, he refused dinner and walked off into the woods alone. Amy watched from the porch, unsure if he was losing his grip or if he truly felt hunted. 2 days later, everything changed. Amy woke early to check on the horses and found Spartan restless, ears twitching toward the edge of the property. When she followed the path beyond the barn, she found Nathan lying near the stream, blood on his shirt and dirt on his hands. He had a gash across his arm and a bruised cheekbone. They tried to grab me, he muttered. 2 of them, black jackets, no faces. Amy helped him up and brought him to the cabin. Jack was furious. Lou wanted to call the police, but Nathan begged them not to. If they know I talked to you, you're next, he warned Amy. She sat beside him as he gripped her wrist. Ty was trying to expose something, and I helped him. That's why they're coming. It wasn't just paranoia anymore. Amy saw it in his wounds and his fear. She asked, what were you two really doing overseas? Nathan didn't answer directly. Instead, he said, we weren't just saving horses. We were saving evidence of abuse, trafficking, even experiments. The kind of things governments bury deep. Amy's stomach turned. Ty had never told her any of this. That night, Amy stayed awake. She kept Lindy close to her. For the first time in years, she felt fear crawl up her spine, not just for herself, but for her daughter, for Heartland, for everything she'd built. Nathan had come back to warn her, but maybe it was already too late. Outside, the wind howled through the trees, and somewhere in the darkness, someone was watching. The storm rolled in without warning, low clouds, cold rain, and a wind that howled like something lost. Amy was closing the barn when she noticed Nathan's cabin was dark. Too dark. He always left a light on, even when sleeping. She walked over, knocked once, then pushed the door open. Empty. The bed untouched. His jacket still hanging on the hook. At first, she thought maybe he'd gone out to clear his head. But something didn't feel right. She ran back to the house, told Jack and Lou, and within minutes, they were driving through the ranch trails in separate trucks with flashlights. Tim joined, calling Nathan's name through the rain. No answer. No movement. Then came the call. A sheriff's deputy had found a burned-out truck by the edge of a fire trail not far from the Heartland boundary. It matched Nathan's. Amy and Lou raced to the site. The truck was barely recognizable: charred metal, blackened glass, twisted steel. But there in the ash near the driver's seat lay a half-melted metal tag, Ty's dog tag, the one Nathan always wore around his neck. Amy couldn't breathe. She fell to her knees as the cold rain soaked her through. The sheriff said they couldn't confirm if a body was inside yet, but Amy already knew in her heart. Nathan was gone. Back at the house, Amy sat silently in Ty's old armchair. In her lap was a leather pouch the deputy had found nearby, likely thrown from the vehicle before the fire took over. Inside was a locket. She opened it with trembling fingers. One side showed Ty holding baby Lindy. The other held a tiny data chip wrapped in black tape. With shaky hands, Amy inserted the chip into Lou's laptop. It contained voice memos, short recordings of Nathan and Ty talking years ago. They spoke about a secret file, something they were trying to protect. One recording ended with Nathan's voice. "If I die, someone will come looking for her. Keep Amy safe. That's all that matters now." Amy's tears hid the keyboard. Nathan didn't just visit to reconnect, he came to protect. And in doing so, he gave his life. But who was the someone he warned about? And what secrets had Ty been keeping to protect his family? A chill ran down Amy's spine as she realized the real danger had just begun. The morning after Nathan's death was quiet. Too quiet. Even the horses sensed something was wrong. The ranch, usually full of comforting sounds, whinnies, laughter, hammering, footsteps, now felt like it was holding its breath. Amy hadn't spoken to anyone since the night before. She stayed in the loft, clutching the locket and listening to the voice memos over and over again. Every time Nathan's voice said Ty's name, it hit her like a wave. Lou brought her tea, but said nothing. Jack stood near the door, unsure if words would help. And Lindy, sweet, innocent Lindy, tiptoed into the room and crawled into her mother's lap without asking anything. Amy wrapped her arms around her daughter and finally broke down. Later that day, Amy called the family together at the kitchen table. Her hands were firm on the table as she spoke, but her voice was soft. "I've made my decision," she said. Everyone leaned in. "I'm not leaving. I won't take the job in Europe." Lou's eyes widened. Jack nodded slowly, as if he already knew. "There's more going on here than just horses or healing," Amy continued. "Nathan didn't come to say goodbye. He came to pass something on. He came because Ty couldn't." Her words landed heavy. "I thought I had to leave Heartland to find myself again. But now I know I was never lost. I just forgot why I stayed." She looked at Lindy. "This land, this family, it's who I am. I can't walk away. Not now. Not ever." That evening, Amy rode Spartan up the hill to Ty's grave. She carried the locket and the final journal Nathan left behind. There, beside the headstone, she placed both items gently in the soil. "I understand now," she whispered. "You were still trying to protect us, even after all this time. And now it's my turn." As she stood in the fading light, the wind brushed her face softly, as if Ty was there, watching, proud. Back at the ranch, Amy posted a message on the barn door. "Healing doesn't run, it roots." And with that, she made her choice. She wasn't going to hide. She wasn't going to run. She would stay, fight, and protect what Ty, and now Nathan, had died to preserve. But as the stars filled the sky that night, far across the field, a lone figure stood near the trees watching the ranch in silence. Someone had noticed Amy's decision, and they weren't happy. The next few days brought a strange calm over Heartland, one that felt like the eye of a storm, not its end. Amy moved with quiet purpose. She wasn't just back to normal ranch routines. Something inside her had changed. Every task, feeding the horses, checking the fences, leading Lindy's riding lessons, now carried a deeper weight. Nathan's death wasn't just a loss. It was a message, and Amy had heard it loud and clear. She took Ty's old saddle out of storage and began restoring it by hand. Not for show, but as a reminder that his work wasn't finished. She placed it in the barn next to Spartan's stall, as if Ty were still part of their everyday life. Lou noticed Amy's sudden focus and asked, "What are you planning?" Amy looked up and said, "Something permanent." She had a vision, now turning a section of the ranch into a recovery sanctuary for both horses and people affected by trauma, much like what Ty and Nathan once dreamed of. A place for second chances, a place where pain could turn into purpose. Meanwhile, Lou filed a report with the RCMP, handing over Nathan's voice memos and the chip. The officer who came to the ranch listened quietly but offered no promises. "This is more than a local matter," he said, his tone careful. "And if what's on this chip is real, then someone very powerful wants it buried." Amy knew that meant danger wasn't over, but she wasn't afraid anymore. Then, just before sundown one evening, a white SUV pulled into the Heartland drive. A woman stepped out early, 40 seconds, sharp eyes, dark coat. She asked for Amy by name. "My name is Agent Keller. I worked with Nathan. He told me if anything happened to him, I'd find the answers here." In her hand, she held a file marked with Ty's name. Amy stared at the folder, heart pounding. The past wasn't finished with her, and neither was Ty's mission. As the camera pans out over Heartland, we see Amy standing tall in the open field, wind in her hair, a fierce look in her eyes. She's not just healing horses anymore. She's protecting a legacy, one built with love, lost in tragedy, and now rising in strength. The screen fades to black with a final line. This is just the beginning. With the first episode closing on a silent but powerful note, Heartland Season 19 sets the tone for a deeply emotional and suspenseful journey. Amy is no longer just a horse whisperer we've known. She's stepping into a new role, guardian of truth, of Ty's memory, and of the legacy Nathan died to protect. This isn't just about healing animals anymore. It's about uncovering a hidden past, fighting for justice, and protecting her family from forces she never imagined would reach Heartland. The episode leaves viewers with many questions. Who is Agent Keller really working for? What exactly is in that file with Ty's name on it? And most importantly, who set the fire that killed Nathan? And are they coming for Amy next? These aren't just plot twists. They're pieces of a larger story that ties back to Ty's final years, and possibly secrets he never had the chance to tell Amy. Meanwhile, Amy's decision not to leave for Europe wasn't just emotional, it was strategic. She realized that walking away would mean giving up the fight before it even began. Instead, she's choosing to stay and rebuild Heartland as both a sanctuary and a shield, a place where animals, people, and even broken legacies can find safety and meaning. But the peace won't last long. Small clues have already been placed. Throughout the episode, shadowy figures near the woods, a mysterious SUV watching from the highway, and strange calls that never leave voicemails. Someone is watching Amy, and they may be closer than she thinks. As Season 19 unfolds, we can expect a thrilling mix of mystery, emotion, and raw human strength. Amy's journey is far from over, it's just evolving. And with the ranch, her family, and her daughter's future on the line, she's ready to face whatever storms come her way. Ty's voice may be gone, but his presence is stronger than ever, guiding Amy toward the truth, one step at a time. So buckle up. Heartland is no longer just a family ranch, it's becoming the center of a much bigger story. One that could change everything we thought we knew about Ty, and the past he tried to leave behind.